Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for this live Basecamp Office Hours webinar. My name is Kimberly. I'm on the 37 Signals product team. I'm excited that you're here to learn about using Basecamp with your clients. So first things first, if you are here in the chat, I know many of you have already found it. Please say hello. Let us know where you are from. Ashley will be joining me in just a few minutes. I'm going to do some housekeeping notes first, but let me know that you're here. It's always nice to actually talk to an audience, not that I'm just talking to myself. So thanks again for coming. If you are brand new to Basecamp, we're going to go into a little more detail about specifics about working with Basecamp clients. I will suggest that you go to one of our Basecamp 101 classes for just basics, how Basecamp works altogether. So we'll drop that link in the chat, how you can find some of our Basecamp classes. If you've never seen Basecamp before, that's a great place to start. But stick with us if you're interested in using with Basecamp with your clients. So just a little bit about me. As I said, I'm on the 37 Signals product team. You might also know me from the Rework podcast. I host that with our co-founders, Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansen. It is weekly. We just released an episode this morning, actually, and it's a great place to get more information about running a small business. So we will also drop that in the chat. Ashley has done that. Thank you so much for that. A little bit about what we're going to be doing today. We're going to walk through not only how to bring clients into Basecamp, but also share some best practices of working with clients in Basecamp. My background before working here, I actually was a small business owner. I owned an event planning company, and I used Basecamp for more than a decade. And I used it with every single one of my clients. So I have lots of experience with that. So I'll talk you through some of the ways that I used it and some best practices. And then Ashley, who will be joining me in a minute, is on our support team and has been with Basecamp for quite a long time and loves to do some one-on-one consultations with folks. So she also has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to working with clients in Basecamp. Okay, before I bring her out, I do want to say a couple of disclaimers first. We use the word clients here, and we'll be using the word client throughout our session today. Just know that doesn't necessarily have to be a technical client. It really is anyone you want to give limited access to your Basecamp account. So if you want them to see some things in Basecamp and not other things, be involved in some to-dos and not others, you can set them up as a client. But that could mean they're a volunteer. That could mean they're a summer intern. It could also be an executive on your team that you want to just see portions of your project and not anything else. So just know that we're using that word very loosely when we say the word clients. So hello to those of you in the chat. It is good to see you. We're going to spend about 45 minutes together, maybe up to an hour, depending on how many questions that we have. Ashley and I are going to walk you through how the product works, and then we'll leave it open for questions. So on the right side of your screen at the very top, you guys have found the chat icon. Just below that is one that has a little question mark on that. If you have a question that comes up during the session, please post it there. So if you'll click over to the question mark tab, then you can post your questions. I've already preloaded a few that we got when people registered. You can also upvote someone else's question. So if you see a question that you're like, I want to make sure that they answer that, please upvote it. It'll float to the top of our list, and we'll make sure to get to those. And then just below that question mark icon, there's another one that looks like a poll, which I have turned on. If you will flip to that poll questionnaire, 3 questions for you. Are you someone who's experienced with working in Basecamp, working with clients? Option 2 is you use Basecamp, but don't yet use client features in Basecamp. Or option 3, you're not using Basecamp yet at all, and you just want to hang out with us and learn a little bit more about the product. So let us know, just so we know who we are talking to as we're walking through things today. Okay, with that, I am going to bring out my colleague, Ashley, from the back. Ashley works on our support team. Tell us a little bit about you before we get started.
Yeah, my name is Ashley. I've been working at Basecamp when it was called Basecamp, or now 37 Signals, for about 7.5 years. I've been on the support team that entire time, and my role is a little bit different, where you will find me via email. But if you want to have kind of a one-on-one discussion about how, really about anything, but about how clients would work with you in your situation, that is when I would love for you to email us at support@basecamp.com, letting us know that. And I'd be happy to meet with you. And if not me, one of my other amazing, amazing colleagues.
Perfect. And I've popped that up on the screen so you guys have that. support@basecamp.com if you have any follow-up things. So with that, Ashley, I'm going to go ahead and walk through a little bit about clients and working with them in general. So let me pull up this slide. If you will give me 1 second to do that. I think it's important to know what clients can and can't do in Basecamp, what permissions they are allowed. So let's walk through that. Ashley, feel free to jump in if I skip anything or if there's anything that you want to expand upon. So client permissions in Basecamp, on the left side, we see what clients can do in Basecamp. So when you set someone up as a client and give them that designation, they are able to view, comment, download anything that's been shared with them. So that includes individual message on the message board. They can see it, they can comment on it, they can respond to it. Any event on the schedule that they have been invited to or have been invited to see, they can see that. Any to-do list they've been invited to, card tables, any automatic check-ins, docs and files that they've been invited to, they can see, and they can also download those items. But there's a more important list of things that they can't do, why you might want to set up someone as a client. They can't create new projects. So as the account owner, admin, user on your account, you can create new projects. Anyone on your account can create new products except for clients. They don't even see the create new projects button on their home screen. They can't add or remove people from projects. They won't see any of the client visibility badges. And we'll show you exactly what that looks like on your end. You have the option to turn on and off different items for clients. Those show with a badge on your end. The client never sees it, doesn't even know it exists. They can't edit product names or description, project names or descriptions. They can't change the project tools. So in a project, you can decide to turn on the card table or off the card table, turn on the chat or turn off the chat. Clients don't have those permissions. They also cannot create public links. So where you can create a link to show something to someone outside your Basecamp account, they do not have that ability. They also cannot see hill charts. They can't archive or delete projects, and they cannot be made an admin on your account. So that is the details on what they can and can't do. Ashley has dropped in the chat a link to our help guides, which show that in more detail. So with that being said, Ashley, do you want to go ahead and show us your screen and walk us through setting up a client in Basecamp?
I do. Let me share my screen. All right, I'm going to look off to the side just so that you know I'm looking at my additional screen.
And Ashley, before you do that, let me just jump in. Thomas, you had a question in the chat. Yes, this will be recorded, and you can send this link to anyone who wants to watch it afterwards. It'll be the same link you came to join. It's the same link. They can watch the recording after we're done.
All right. So looking at this Basecamp account, if you haven't seen one before, welcome. It can be as colorful or as singularly colored as you'd like. What we're going to do just for a moment is look at a project that already has a client in it, just so that we can see just briefly that there is a way, for example, within the message board, to turn messages visible to the client or keep them invisible to the client, so that we can have everything truly related to this project in one location. Right? And so the way to do this, we really, really recommend starting a project and kind of setting it up so that when you do invite your client in there, it's not like they're seeing a blank page entirely. They're ready to kind of engage with information. So I spent some time setting this one up. Kimberly needs a new logo. All right. And so we have a 2-month timeline for this. We have a lead person. All this key information is going to be right here at the top. And we haven't invited Kimberly into this yet, and we will. But first, I just kind of want to show briefly that we have some things that are going to stay private to the team. And then we have some things that are definitely going to be for Kimberly. So set things up in a similar way for basically anything that you need in here. I've got maybe a couple other things going on that we can kind of start to get going with them. We definitely want them involved in our kickoff call. So to really begin, we're going to, for example, click on home after you have this project set up. Actually, do I want to make client company? You know what? Let me add a client company to this project so that once I invite a person, then I'll be able to include them right away into this project.
Perfect. So what Ashley's going to do is make this project so that it can be client accessed, if you will. So that's really the first step, is like making this project available for clients.
Yep. So in the way that we had, different messages visible to the client and some invisible, that's not an option yet until you click on add a client to this project. And here we're just going to call it Kimberly's company.
Love
That's
it.
probably not the name of your company when you were literally a small business owner. And then we're going to skip this part. We're going to imagine that there's no Kimberly yet in the account. All we wanted to do was just get that far, create a client company. Eventually, we will bring Kimberly into this one. And so even right now, when I click into that message, I have something different here. The message is private to the team currently, and let me switch it over to allow the client to see this too. And so right off the bat, we have something. If Kimberly were to log in, and momentarily she will, and we'll show you what her screen looks like as a client, then they would see just this one message. They would see that the other things exist, but they wouldn't see anything else that we don't want them to. So I'll make these two things visible. And then, I've actually already invited Kimberly to this account. So what I will do is invite a fake person in here. So I will invite people. And now I'm going to choose a client you're doing work for. And then we're going to add fake me. And we'll use a test account. Use their real information, of course. And then whether they're a part of Kimberly's company or something else or something entirely different, you can make it as specific as it needs to be. We're going to leave it as Kimberly's company, and we're going to leave that there. If I want to add a personal note, you definitely can. But I'm just going to email this invitation now. And so here's where I get the option to set up which projects that this person can see. I'll also do this for Kimberly. And so now here are all of the projects in my Basecamp account that have that client access turned on. And I don't have to invite this person to, any of them or all of them, but we'll just do this one. And then now we'll go back to this project. We have Kimberly's company at the top, and there's that user. And now we'll actually bring Kimberly into this space, add people. I feel like this is a lot of me clicking around everywhere. Rest assured, this is all documented in our help guides. And Kimberly made a video for this.
While you do that, I did make a video about working with clients. So let me post that in the chat here so you guys have it. It walks you through this process of inviting people into your account and then adding them to a project. It is a multi-step process. So following that video step by step is very helpful. If I can find the link for you.
There we go.
There we go.
Ashley and Kimberly. Okay. So now that we're in this project, I wonder if, Kimberly, do you want to show what this looks like on your end?
I do. Give me 1 second. Let me post this video link.
And I think what's also important to note here is that your clients, maybe this person is from, maybe we have a vendor and this person is from like the food part of the team. And this person is the event space owner. And we want to have them both in this one project. We can just make this client company name, instead of Kimberly's company, we'll just call it something like all vendors. And then we can include these client users of different companies into this one spot so that we're working with everyone. And we can also, I think important distinction, I get this question a lot. I can't make something visible just to Ashley and something visible just to Kimberly. We are a client unit so that when I go to this message, welcome Kimberly, the client sees this. The client as in the two of us in this case. And so that I think is an important distinction on visibility.
Yeah. And so Ashley, if you'll stop sharing your screen, I will share mine so we can walk it through on the client side. One thing on that, various clients or various vendors on a client project, a good example of that would be if you're working with, let's say, home construction, and you want your plumber and your electrician and your drywall guy to all be on the Basecamp project, you would need to set them all up as clients, one shared client, if you will. And then they either all can see the message or they all cannot see the message. You couldn't just turn it on for the plumber or just turn it on for the electrician. If you needed that capability, you need to separate them out into different projects. So with that being said, let me show my screen and what it looks like on the client side. So here is my home screen. You can see I have this new logo for Kimberly. Unlike Ashley on the user end, I don't have a make a new project or invite people to my project buttons like you would have. I just see these projects. So when I click in, Ashley showed multiple messages on her message board. I have just this one message. I can't even see that other messages exist. She also had some chat options on her project page. I don't even see that those exist. I see that there's a meeting here on Thursday, but I don't see anything else on the calendar. It's only the things that she has turned on for me to see that I can see in my account. Everything else is relatively empty.
And I've just turned on that chat for Kimberly specifically. So instantly, if you scroll down a bit, she'll see it right there. So that people really only see what you want them to see. And so she says, hey there. And she doesn't see those labels that she's the client either. I think that's also
Exactly.
a fun and important one. You don't really want someone, especially if they're like a student or your executive, to see that they have the word client next to them. It's really just for us on the internal side of things to be able to differentiate.
What I think is especially helpful about working with clients in Basecamp, being able to turn things on and off. You can have everything related to that project, that client, both internal and external, all in one place, all centrally located. You're not having to say, here's how I'm working with my team in this area, but then I'm emailing the client or I'm Slacking the client or I'm doing something different. It can all be one holistic pile. And then you can decide what the client sees and doesn't. That has been the most helpful thing for me in this working with client scenario.
Nice.
So with that, we do have some questions about best practices for onboarding. And I think from Ashley, will you go back to your welcome message? I know it's just a generic one.
Actually, I made it kind of pleasant yesterday.
Oh,
So I got really specific about like, you know what, Kimberly, we are very excited you're here. Here's who's working on this project with you. I just want to set some expectations on the timeline and on who you'll be specifically working with. And then I go into what the main tools we're going to use. So I'm not giving like a very strong overview of every single thing that's in this project. I think we kind of get what chat is for, but we're going to say chat with us at any time. Ask your quick questions here and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And message board is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be more akin to email. And within here, we're welcoming them to create new messages if they want to. And this is a good way to tell us something with a little bit more ceremony versus a chat, which is going to be more casual. We're also talking here about docs and files and about how we want them to use that with us. So I think in whatever situation you're in, as long as you make it clear and referenceable how someone should be working with you, how they can best collaborate with you. One, they tend to generally like that. And two, it's really nice for everyone on the team to be able to see what these expectations are in one. And then at the bottom here, I just have like a couple things that make it easier. You download the mobile app, do that for yourself, and things will be much more simple. We're all used to having a bunch of apps on our phone these days, so you can respond to things when you're not always by your computer. And then adjusting your notifications is also of course, I will send you that, Alexander. Adjusting your notifications is a huge part of it. And being able to have someone say, you know what, I don't want email notifications because it's not really how I'm used to working. I'm just going to stick with the mobile app. Then having them know that that's an option right off the bat is super helpful. We don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed, but we also don't want them to be under notified. So finding that balance is going to be important. And then finally, and I think we can say more about this too, you especially, Kimberly, is that everything goes through Basecamp. Leave that expectation in the front as much as you can, because all of our communication and all of our work is going to be in this one place. And then we kind of tell them, you know, anything that you send to me, I think in practice, anything you send to me, make sure it's in this space. How did that go for you
absolutely.
when you were working with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it on the head. It's really just reiterating, like, this is how we work. If you're looking for something, this is where you're going to find it. If you have a question for me, this is where you post it. And just reiterating that message, I think, is very important. I'm going to go to Alexander's question here. What are all the ways to think of the client feature in Basecamp? As an agency owner, I can also invite contractors like clients. You absolutely can. I think the biggest differentiator, Alexander, is if you want to be able to turn on and off things from their visibility. You can invite anyone as a collaborator into your account. You can invite them as really an employee into your account. With either of those options, they can see everything. You cannot turn off visibility. So that's the biggest question I think to ask yourself is, do I need to turn on and off visibility? Is there anything I want to hide from them? If so, they need to be a client. Otherwise, there's no other way to do it. Even if you posted a message on the message board and you didn't give someone a notification, they could still see it. They can still go into a project and see anything that's been posted. If they are a client, they can only see it if you allow them to see it. Anything else to add on that, Ashley?
Just that if you're torn between adding, like truly working with someone and collaborating with them in Basecamp or keeping them a little bit at arm's length, that other option that we mentioned earlier about public links, that might be a good alternative for you. So maybe we want to, and I can literally share this, get a public link. I can decide if I want to show all these comments. I will generate this link, copy, and then let me paste it there. You all can click on it, just like I will here, and you can see how it's in like an abridged version, like a Basecamp light version of what we see internally. There's no way for this person to comment. So if you have like an email-only relationship with them and you want to keep it that way, maybe you still do as much as you can in Basecamp, but share a public link and kind of skip over the client option. If that works. Doesn't work for everyone.
Perfect. I've moved a couple of questions over into our Q&A section. If you guys will post them there, then I'll definitely see them. Ashley, can someone copy and paste your intro announcement? Will you send it to them as a follow-up?
I will. I'll include it. I'll include it as a follow-up. I'll include this public link as a follow-up.
Love it. That's a great idea. And honestly, we have people ask us all the time about like, can you just make a template for us for how this should work? Mm-hmm. It is challenging because there's so much flexibility with Basecamp, which is one of its perks. Some people only want to use the chat function. So it's hard for us to make a template of how you should work with your clients in Basecamp because we don't know exactly which tools you want to use with your client. But we'll send you this basic structure as an intro that Ashley just worked on. Thank you for doing that, Ashley. So you guys can feel free to copy and paste as much of it into your own welcome message for your clients.
I also have, speaking on that specifically, how it's hard to know how you want to do something, us versus like the many people who use Basecamp for clients. In this project, I have a couple of examples. Some people like to use like, all right, I need approval from this client before we move over into the next phase of the design. A lot of people prefer to use the message board tool for this. And if that works, that is fantastic. We just have the person commenting, that is approved. Thank you so much, and then we kind of move on from there. Ooh, side note, where you can even kind of close comments here. If we are done discussing this for anyone, we can close the comments. The author can do this or an account admin. And so we have now that the comments are closed. So if I scroll down, there's no way to boost. There's no way to add anything additional here. So that's kind of one nice way to set a boundary when you are looking for approval without someone like accidentally replying to this email notification 2 months down the line. But then a lot of other people just kind of prefer to do approvals. And so here I have for Gina, can you please, this notifies them once I hit add this to do, we need the first draft approval done. When this is done, I want to notify the main person who's involved on this project. So we can get more specific. I think it really just depends on how you want to work with this person. So here's the file that we're looking at for draft 1. And I can attach it here or link it from Docs and Files. And I add this to do, and that person is notified right away. So maybe that works out better for them, having something checked off like that. But just know that whatever you're thinking of for a design is probably what's going to work out best.
Ashley, I want to go to Alyssa's question, which is about templates. She said, speaking of templates, can you set up a template with client access already toggled on for certain features? That is a great question.
That is a great question. It is a sad no.
It is a sad no, but with reason.
Yeah. And so I suppose that the best thing that you can do for yourself in advance is maybe say something like, all right, this is my client project. This is my, maybe I'll rename this to client list, make visible or something like that. And I will save those changes and still create as much as I can in advance before anything is truly live in an active project. And then once we get there, you just know exactly what needs to be toggled on and off.
So it is a little bit of a, once you make a project from a template, manually turning on, like, I want them to see this, I want them to see this, I want them to see this. It is not automatic.
Mm-hmm. But that's
And
a
for
good
me, I
request.
had a template for every single one of my client projects, very deep in to-dos,
Yeah.
and had it, as Ashley just showed, sectioned off by the client's going to see this list, they're not
Yep.
going to see this list. And the
Mhm.
internal list would be things about accounting and onboarding and things just the client did not need to see.
Mhm.
Um, on I want to go to Alexander's question, which he's saying he doesn't want a client to see a contractor. Or basically, I think Alexander, chime in the chat if I'm misunderstanding this. I'm thinking you're saying you don't want your client to necessarily see all the other people on the project. Is that possible? Let me know if that's not correct. But if it is what you're asking, it is not possible. So once a client's on a project, they will see all the other people on that project.
On that project only. So if I invite a contractor to a project that I have with them, wonderful. That contractor sees that project and sees nothing else unless I choose that. And then we go over to my actual client, Kimberly. Kimberly doesn't see that the other project exists, doesn't see that this other person is a client on a different space. That contractor is just in a separate location. And if you mean contractor as an outside collaborator, then they also wouldn't see each other unless they're on the same project.
Right.
So there's a lot of privacy that you can really establish just by making new projects. And because you have unlimited projects, it's kind of pleasant.
And the same thing with pings. So you can only ping someone you're on a project with. So if you have 5 different clients on 5 different projects, client A cannot ping client B. They will never know client B, C, D, E even exists unless
Mhm.
those 2 clients are on the same project.
True.
Great. I'm going to go to one of our questions that has a lot of upvotes. We've talked about it a little bit, but let's dive into it. Best practices for onboarding clients who have never used Basecamp before. Ashley's welcome message is a great tip. I also would say, I think it's helpful if you're in any kind of service industry where you're working with clients to tell them your process upfront. I know for me, when I was working with clients, I would tell them during the booking process, like during an initial interview, like, this is how we work together. This is what I use. Here's how we're going to keep your project on track. And I almost used it as a selling feature, to be honest. Like, this is how we are organized. It's because we use Basecamp. And let me show you exactly how it works. So from day one, they're bought into the process. I think that is helpful.
Mhm.
Welcome message. And then also, Ashley mentioned this before, and I'm going to double down on it, the mobile app.
Yep.
In today's world where people are just everywhere, it's so easy to be like, don't feel like you have to be tied to your computer, because there's also a mobile app. So you'll get messages on your mobile when you're on the go. It just takes off that level of stiffness, I think, when you're like, it's just a mobile app. Just pop
Yep.
in and read my messages.
And I think it also might be a good practice in general to have a way internally for everyone to say, why don't we reroute this to Basecamp? So if I get an email from someone, maybe I will turn on my email forwards tool. If I get an email from them, maybe I'll forward that email into this project so that we can discuss it internally. I might reply to the client there, or maybe I'll just make a new message and say, hey, we got your email. Just really try to redirect them to answering everything and asking everything in one location so that we're not searching multiple platforms when we don't really need to be.
That's perfect. Okay, Ashley, I'm going to jump to this question, and I don't know who wrote this in when they registered, but it's a little bit about approvals. And you've talked a little bit about maybe using message board. I know we can also do some things with card table and to-dos. I'm going to let you show us that. The question is, without automations, what are best practices for handing off work during internal and client approvals? There
Yeah,
are multiple ways that you can handle this. So
definitely.
Ashley, I'll let you jump in and maybe show some of your favorites.
Yes. I think if I am working with someone who's feeling a little more classic, a little more like send me a message and I shall approve it or not, then stick with the message board. If we have someone who is very like organization focused and they really prefer to have something on their calendar to be able to be checked off, to dos make the most sense. But then your other option here would just be the card table. This is a tool, if you haven't seen it before, we have so much information on it, and we actually have a new live class about it. So we'll make sure that we kind of tell people a little bit more about the ways that you can use card table. In this example, I'm going to say that maybe I will make this entire card table visible to the client, right? So that's kind of your only option. You can't make like a single column visible. So now that this whole thing is visible to them, I will make a new stage and I will say approval. And maybe I might describe it a bit, for Gina's approval specifically. And maybe I'll put client approval. And then we will add this column. So now within our entire process, which is usually a left to right process, then we will really involve this person. And I might even click on this. I'm currently the only one watching it because I created it. But if I stop watching it and I make someone else the subscriber, I might both of you watch this, then we will save those changes. So now when something moves into that category, into that column, then they're notified, both of them. And within this card is where maybe all the work is. This is where someone will upload a specific file or, again, link to the docs and files section. But then we have it here so that we can continue the conversation with them. Basecamp is super collaborative. And so having your clients work with you in that same collaborative way, I think is just really clear for everyone. There's a lot of transparency built into this because we have been a remote company for so long that it can really be helpful for everyone to be on the same page and not have to, if you want to take a 2-week vacation, which you are most welcome to do, then we don't need to be able to like hack your email so that we can figure out what's going on with the client. We just have it all here from the beginning. And so then this client, maybe I want to change the assignee over to them, which notifies them about it. Maybe I have a specific due date. I don't know why I keep choosing Halloween, but I will save those changes. And then we will expect them to complete things by that due date, right? So it's kind of like using a message and a task all together. And then we can say, we can even get even more descriptive. Hey, Gina, this is the file. Let us know if you have any feedback. Something like that, right? And we'll save that. And then truly the conversation is all there. We can even see who it notified, the client, Jeff, Sophia. So everything truly is just much more clear. So I think you have 3 options personally. But if you think of anything else, I would love to know.
And also docs and will you go to docs and files and show commenting on docs and files? If you can see her folder, she only has 1 item that the client can see. Everything else is internal. So it is internal design process. Anyone on this internal company can see it. The client can only see the one that has been approved for them to see.
Definitely. So if I click on this one and I want the client to be able to see this, I can do that. And then maybe I want to say, I'll say, how's this one feeling for you? And then I will. It's trying to call you Kim. No.
Don't do it.
And then pretend I'm not screaming, pretend it's a question. And I have something more to say there. So if we want to have the conversation directly underneath the file, that's also an option as well. We can even have our client maybe boost one of the 3 and say, you know what, this is the one I feel most strongly about. This is my number 1 and 2 and 3. So we have a lot of ways for people to interact. Just guide them on how you want them to share their thoughts and their information. And that usually leads to the best product.
Perfect. Actually, I'm going to go through a few more questions that we got in so we can answer them. This one came in when someone was registering how to handle summer interns, treat them as a contractor or as an employee since they have a company email. I'm kind of going to go back to my original assessment. It just depends on if you want them to see everything or not. So we had some interns last summer and we treated them like employees. They had access to everything. That's just kind of our company culture is very open. Everyone can pretty much see everything and we work very much in the public. But if you were like, no, there are some private things that they shouldn't have access to, then make them a client. And then you can just turn on and off what options they have.
And their email address doesn't really matter. So even if they have your company email address, you can still invite them to the account in a different role, just really whatever makes the most sense for you and your team.
There you go. Another question came in. I have a consulting firm. Should I use 1 project per client as a client directory or 1 project per client project? So I guess, Ashley, the question is, should you put all of your one client, all the projects that you're working with them in one big project or divide into smaller individual projects per client project, if that makes sense.
What? I'm just kidding. Yeah, it does. So I think that I think I would have to talk to you more specifically to give you like a more concrete answer. But the general answer is that if everyone is okay being together, like I've spoken to some people this week about how they're using Basecamp as like a forum, and they need both of those spaces. They need one space that's just for them and their specific client to work on whatever it is they're working on. And then they need another space for them and all of the clients to then collaborate with each other and share information. And so they both exist, just kind of is what do we want to gain from each from the situation? Do we only want to have that like more focused and like singular relationship, or do we want something that's more collaborative and open?
I also like to think about when things have a start and an end date. I think
Yeah.
it's sometimes nice to wrap things up in a bow when it's like this project has started and now it's ended and now we're done with it and we can move it
Right.
aside before you start something new. I think it's sometimes helpful to close things out as opposed to having something that goes on forever. And there also could be the option to do both. Maybe
Yeah.
there's one ongoing project that's just basics of working with the client information, and then there are more time-based projects as well.
So
All
maybe
that
I
to say,
make like
not one way to do it.
right. So maybe I want an HQ with all my other GH design projects. And this is where we talk about general information, either with or without the client. And then we have, all right, there's logo redesign over here. And then there's marketing campaign over here. Two things that have a start and an end date that we do want to keep track of, but it's not going to have the same feeling as just as headquarters, right? So if I see all projects in mission control, these two will have an actual gauge, a meter, usually a due date. And then I will come back to this client HQ, and that's where I can expect the general information to be, like our bigger picture, our 5-year plan, something like that.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, Alyssa, is there a way to add multiple companies and users in bulk? We have several hundred projects across multiple clients. We're ready to add them all to Basecamp. I wish I had a better answer for you because several hundred is a lot.
It is. I will check on my back end and see what I can do in like the coding world of things. But generally, the only way to add people in bulk is going to be when you're inviting them as employees. Then you can generate a link for them. And then with that link, you can share it in whatever way makes the most sense. But clients are a one by one, outside collaborators are a one by one. There's not like a super fast way to do it.
But once the client is entered one by one, then you can invite them to multiple projects fairly easily. Right. Ashley, can you go to that check box? I don't exactly know where to get to it.
Just change their access.
There you go.
You know what? All of them. So that is that's kind of the fastest way to get people into a good group of projects, but inviting people individually is going to be the other way through it. Again, so unless I find a way.
I'm hoping that you have hundreds of projects, but not hundreds of clients, because that would be easier. Just check which ones they want to be in.
Yeah. I'm sending each of you an individual email after this anyway. So if you did want to talk more specifically about your situation, just reply back to that one.
Perfect. Chad had a question. Can this be turned off midway through a project? I'm thinking you're meaning client access. Can you have a client on a project and then decide, I don't want this client to have access to it?
Yeah. Let's say that our project really ended the day before yesterday. Save those changes. We're done. I can actually just remove these folks individually and then remove the client company if I want to. Or we can just keep the client company name so we have a record of what was visible and what wasn't. And so here there is no access for Kimberly or my alternative self, but we still do have the client sees this. They're just not a part of it. So that is definitely one way that you can do it. It is possible. We can also just remove them completely here.
And on my end, on the client end, when I like refresh my screen, that project just disappears.
It's gone. Yeah. But I would like
Okay. Daniel, question, is there a big difference between using Basecamp online versus downloading the Basecamp app on a desktop? I mean, I will say for me, the biggest difference is the tabs. I think most of us internally use the desktop version because we multitask in tabs. But
Mm.
maybe that's not the Ashley, what do you do?
I 100% use the browser. The desktop is not for me,
Yes.
and it never has been. But there are some people who worked at Basecamp for like 5 years, if not much longer, and they were dedicated to that app. And I don't know how they
Mm-hmm.
did it, but it's just the brain wired slightly differently. So we have both options for you, and both
And
have
there's
notifications.
Yeah, and there's not a big difference in how the two of them work by any means. It's
Mhm.
just the view. For me, I like the multiple tabs.
Me too. Although I will say in both of them, if you do want to move around quickly, Command J on a Mac or Control J on a Windows, and you can go just speed of light from one place to the other. Let me get back to admin land, and there we are, or back to that project. So either one really does work, but just if you're a tab person, you know where to go. The browser.
You guys, we've like knocked through all these questions so fast. I'm going to open it up in case anyone has questions because I don't want to rush you. We want to answer all the questions. Oh, Ashley, really
Mhm.
quick, will you go back to your card table
Yes.
for a minute just to show us the structure? I did drop in the chat a video about how the card table works, just in case you want to watch that for follow-up.
Mhm.
Riley, I think you had a question about using Basecamp as a CRM. And I think Card Table would be the place to do that, where you can track someone's progress through each stage of the card table. And then you would likely want to make a project with a card table that is not inviting a client into it, since you'll be tracking incoming clients through it. So you'd want to make it private to your team. Each card could be a human, a person's name, information, and that card could track through stages of the booking process. I hope
Definitely.
that answers that question.
It will. Especially because I have a more specific, like pipeline driven screenshot in like an account that I don't remember which account it is right now, but I will remember that you sent that because I will track your question and I'll send you that screenshot specifically. We also will probably write something up in the near future about how to use Basecamp as a CRM, a light CRM, but nonetheless, it will be helpful. So we'll do that too.
Very good. Well,
Mhm.
from a poll, it looks like most of you use Basecamp, don't use the client feature. If you have any questions as you're thinking about it, please reach out to us. We love talking to people about how to use Basecamp in lots of different ways.
Absolutely.
And I will say it again, using the client feature in Basecamp, I think is game changing because it really is everything in one place with only clients seeing what you want them to see. So
Mhm.
with that, last wrap up, I'm going to drop into the chat a little plug for our Basecamp community. We have a Basecamp project that is filled with people who use Basecamp, love Basecamp, and also have helpful tips about using Basecamp. So if
Mhm.
you're a Basecamp user and you are interested in joining that group, just let us know. There's a link to how you can get signed up. Marissa, who's here in our chat with us, works on the community along with Ashley and Robert, always sharing helpful tips about Basecamp. And it's a great place to connect with other users.
Mhm.
You guys,
Maybe that is where I'll put that CRM information, and then we'll also make it public on our help guides. So that's
I
a
love that.
yes, Daniel. We did mention it.
Perfect. Okay, well, with that, we're going to wrap it up. Like we said early in the session, this is recorded, and just a few moments after we hop off the air, it will be available at this link you just came to, and you can rewatch it or send it to anyone that you would like. Thanks for joining us. We have another webinar coming up in just about 2 weeks about using Basecamp for QA, for the QA process. So we will send you guys information about that in our follow-up email as well. We'd love to see you then. That's with our QA team walking us through their projects, exactly how they use Basecamp in
Mhm.
that use case. So you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, folks.